this place?
Of course. This is where I first asked you out.
I think it was me that asked you.
Right.
I guess it kind of would have defeated the purpose. But I'm saying it now. So take charge.
Well, you can be a little intimidating.
You know, a girl can grow old waiting around for you to take charge.
Well, we can't all be as bold
As
as...
who?
Well, I guess that's what I thought you always wanted. A stronger man.
Victor? You know, there is no me in Victor. Never was. But I wanted you to be that man.
Well, why didn't you say so?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men are coming back during Deadpool 3, so I can't believe I never actually did a video for the Wolverine Fantastic Four crossover they tried to do years ago. This was the beginning of them crossing over the X-Men, the Fantastic Four characters, starting with the Wolverine character, just because at the time he'd become so popular. So we'll break it all down, why they deleted the scene, and why Fox could never actually pull off a Fantastic Four X-Men crossover, even though there were multiple movies where they tried to make them fight, like Captain America Civil War, except with the X-Men versus the Fantastic Four. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We'll get more footage of them all coming back in Deadpool 3 pretty soon. Hopefully they'll figure out all the strike stuff pretty soon. Don't want to see that drag into next year. There'll be a lot of this crossover stuff they'll set up in Loki Season 2 episodes, which I'll be doing videos for when they premiere later this year too. I've already done a couple videos for some of the bigger cameos in Deadpool 3, like Chris Evans coming back as his Human Torch, all the X-Men characters coming back. I literally just did a video about Channing Tatum coming back as a version of Gambit, so I'll link all those videos down in the description below.
You know what time it is?
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 Part of the reason so many of the classic Fantastic Four and classic X-Men are coming back in that is to pay off long-running plans that for several reasons Fox was never able to actually pull off, namely Fantastic Four versus the X-Men. The movie's also adapting part of Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, except the joke is Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel Universe, with them clowning on the fact that Fox got bought by Disney, and the Fox Marvel movies are kind of being relegated to Legends canon, kind of like when Disney bought Star Wars. That's why you're seeing the 20th Century Fox logo be pruned on the Void Planet from the Loki series inside this Deadpool movie, like they got pruned and sent to the Void Planet. The story of them trying to cross over X-Men and Fantastic Four goes back all the way to this very first Fantastic Four movie in 2005. That's where the deleted scene comes from. In the deleted scene, Reed Richards is talking to Sue Storm about their relationship, the love triangle they have with Dr. Doom. That was a thing in the comics, like Dr. Doom, back to the classic comics, had been in love with Sue Storm during different eras of the Fantastic Four stories, and they deleted the scene before they polished the special effects to digitally replace Mr. Fantastic's face with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine face, but you can clearly see what they were trying to do. It would have appeared as if Hugh Jackman were in the actual movie itself. Kind of a more literal version of the Deadpool Wolverine funny scene at the end of the first movie, where he pretended that he was Hugh Jackman, just wearing the paper mask. They do the same thing with the MCU movies, where there might be like a deleted scene or like a cool idea they had for an earlier movie that winds up getting cut from the film for whatever reason that they'll bring back around in future films. Ryan Reynolds just taking the opportunity to clown on some of those old deleted scenes and ideas that never actually got paid off when he did his Deadpool movies. During the comics, they ultimately wound up paying off this whole idea in the newer version of Secret Wars, where Dr. Doom rewrites reality with the power of the Beyonders. The multiverse was collapsing because of the Time Runs Out storyline, and that'll be important in a second in the Marvel movies. So to save all of reality, Dr. Doom takes the power of the Beyonders with Doctor Strange's help and combines all the fragments of the remaining universes together into a single world called Battle World. But when he does that, he also uses his power to rewrite reality so that everybody living there gets their memories altered, so they think things were always like this. And as part of that rewriting of everyone's memory, Dr. Doom makes Sue Storm fall in love with him, and they're a couple together, at least for a little while, till Reed Richards comes back. Now they're doing a version of Secret Wars for Avengers 6 in the Marvel movies, but it'll be slightly different from the comics, sort of a combination of the classic 1980s Secret Wars and the more modern version. And instead of God Emperor Doom being the main villain, it'll be another Kang variant with Beyonder-like powers. I believe right now the rumor is that it's meant to be the original Kang the Conqueror, who everyone thought died at the end of Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania inside the Quantum Realm. And to pay off that time runs out storyline, they're also supposed to be doing a version of that for the Doctor Strange 3 movie. That's like a whole separate video. I could talk for an hour about what's going on during that, so I'll do a video later this week at some point. You can see how they're trying to adapt a lot of these different storylines for what they're doing right now in all the Marvel movies. Now in present day, Doctor Doom from those original Fantastic Four movies is supposed to be coming back in Deadpool 3. Julian McMahon is supposed to be in the movie as a cameo for his Doctor Doom. The movie's going to build on the events of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Scarlet Witch killed Reed Richards of the 838 universe, the John Krasinski version. Since they're going back there for the movie, they might pay off some of that storyline with Doctor Doom trying to put the moves on Sue Storm now that Reed Richards is gone. Because of what's happening now, I also think that the Doctor Doom they reference in the behind-the-scenes commentary for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is the Julian McMahon version of the character.
The detail of the teleportation device he uses to get into the scene is something we took from the comics. That's Doctor Doom's time door.
All those 838 universe versions are meant to be more comic book accurate versions, so it's not the exact same version from the Fantastic Four 2005 movie, but it's one that's like that version. There'll be a totally new MCU version of Doctor Doom that they introduce in future movies. I'll talk about that in my later videos. The reason why Fox made them delete the Wolverine cameo scene from this original Fantastic Four movie is because they just released X2, X-Men United, and their main X-Men movies were more popular than ever. Remember, this is the early 2000s, so they'd only just started doing a bunch of comic book movies. Sony had just started doing the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, which were also hugely popular, but at the time, the X-Men movies were viewed as Fox's crown jewel. They earned so much money for them. Ultimately, they decided they didn't want this funny Wolverine crossover scene to poorly affect the main X-Men movies or any potential for a Wolverine spin-off movie, which they eventually did not long after that with Wolverine Origins. They ended up having all kinds of problems with Wolverine Origins, but at the time, years before that, you have to remember, they were trying to protect their brand. Like, no, this is a license to print money. We can't mess with this. Fox did restore most of the deleted scene up to the point they stopped working on it in the original movie for the extended version of the DVD release, so if you bought that extended version, you might have seen this deleted scene. Something similar wound up happening in the original X-Men movies with the Spider-Man crossover, where it only appeared on like a single version of the DVD release, and then it kind of vanished in future re-releases. The next time Fox tried to cross over the X-Men and the Fantastic Four was in a full-blown Civil War type of movie that would have basically been X-Men vs. the Fantastic Four. For those of you that wondered why they never wound up crossing those characters over in any of the original movies, and even the later First Class era of X-Men movies, like why wouldn't you try to cross over the Fantastic Four? Back in 2013, Simon Kinberg, who at the time was like the main Marvel producer at Fox, announced that they were developing a crossover movie with both teams going at each other Civil War style, with Doctor Doom being the main villain, kind of like Baron Zemo was in Captain America Civil War. This was years before the Fantastic Four 2015 reboot movie, so this would have been the classic Fantastic Four actors coming back, even though at the time, like you remember, just charting the timeline out here, Chris Evans had been playing Captain America in the MCU movies for a few years, and Marvel had just started making the Winter Soldier movie, so Chris Evans was already knee-deep in Captain America. During the X-Men vs. Fantastic Four movie, this Doctor Doom, the Julian McMahon version, was going to orchestrate a war between teams to find the most powerful characters and trick them into helping him take over the world, while also killing any of the X-Men or Fantastic Four who learned his secret. Slightly flimsier plot than what they did during Captain America Civil War. Like, how do we get these two teams to fight each other? Their movie would have started with Doctor Doom causing Johnny Storm Human Torch to cause a bunch of collateral damage on accident, killing a bunch of innocent people, very similar to Captain America Civil War with Scarlet Witch accidentally killing a bunch of people, and then people believing that Bucky killed a bunch of people, but falsely. So in the Fox version, Human Torch would have been kind of like the Bucky role. The one the X-Men and Fantastic Four were fighting over what to do with him. Some of the characters would have switched sides, so it wasn't just the Fantastic Four versus the X-Men, it was like a mixture of both teams going at each other. And even if it sounds like Fox would have been copying Marvel in Captain America Civil War, remember that they were developing this years before Captain America Civil War, so technically had this got made, it would have been Marvel copying Fox. They had the writers from X-Men First Class develop the script. They were the same people that Marvel had write the first Thor movie, so already lots of crossover energy between Fox and Marvel happening here. You might have seen the writers talking about this deleted movie, like they wrote most of the movie before they ultimately canceled plans. The reason why it never actually got made, even though it could have turned into a solid crossover movie, was because of X-Men Days of Future Past. The writers of the Fantastic Four X-Men crossover movie said that behind the scenes, Fox executives learned that Bryan Singer had signed on to come back and direct another X-Men movie, he'd agreed to do Days of Future Past, basically. They knew they'd be able to get all the classic X-Men actors back and the new first-class X-Men actors and cross them over, and Fox saw the regular mainline solo X-Men movies as being way more valuable to them, like a license to print money, so they went with the Days of Future Past idea and scrapped the Fantastic Four crossover idea. Also didn't help that the previous Fantastic Four solo movies kind of bombed theatrically. That's when they decided to reboot the Fantastic Four movie with a 2015 version because they weren't doing the crossover movie. Ultimately, it wound up being even worse for the Fantastic Four franchise, but it went great for the X-Men. Days of Future Past is still a pretty solid X-Men movie. Now, like the Rogue cut is a little bit better version of that movie than the theatrical version, but still overall a pretty solid film. They also ultimately wound up kind of losing their franchise mojo with the X-Men during Apocalypse and then Dark Phoenix, so ultimately their Fantastic Four franchise and their X-Men franchise both kind of fizzled out no matter what. That crossover movie might have saved the Fantastic Four franchise for them, but we also would not have gotten Days of Future Past, so you can let me know in the comments if you would have rather seen the crossover movie if it would mean no Days of Future Past. Disney eventually bought Fox, and the point was moot. Now Deadpool 3 is essentially going to pay off all those deleted scenes, all those canceled plans, running ideas for crossover movies that never got made. Sort of like a swan song for the Fox Marvel characters, tying off as many loose ends before Secret Wars. This is probably just the beginning. I'm sure we'll learn about all kinds of canceled plans and deleted scenes, things that they never revealed up until Deadpool 3 starts to pay those things off. So of course I'll do more videos as we get more footage from that film. Next week, my Ahsoka episodes are going to start. Right after that, Loki Season 2 episodes that will connect with Deadpool 3, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Click here for my Deadpool 3 Gambit video, and click here for my brand new Loki Season 2 trailer video and Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe and maximum effort.